Launching with the PlayStation 4, Killzone Shadowfall is Guerrilla Games' attempt to revitalize the franchise, giving it a new look and relatively new general feel. The result is one that does feel new, something refreshing, but ultimately makes some notable missteps to make you feel bummed out that something so right actually goes a bit wrong. Killzone Shadowfall takes place 30 years after the events of Killzone 3. The Helghast and Vectans now share planet Vecta after Helgen was destroyed from the events of Killzone 3. The Vectans and Helghast are separated by a giant wall on planet Vecta to discourage any confrontation. You play as Lucas Kellen, a Shadowfall marshal who is currently working under the command of the VSA, or Vectan Security Agency. Without spoiling much, a new war is on the brink of happening, and Kellen makes the troubling decision of whose orders to take and what direction to move in as more is discovered about what each faction plans to do against one another. The game opens with a very strong scene and has arguably one of the better stories in the franchise. It has a lot of deep, compelling moments that really twine the past plots together nicely. If you've always been knee-deep in the story of the Helghast versus Vectans, you'll be satisfied here. Overall, Guerrilla has accomplished a lot of what they set out to do with Shadowfall. It feels entirely fresh for the franchise without feeling bizarrely different. There's still a good amount of dark, gray, washed-out environments, but it contrasts nicely with the ample amount of bright and colorful environments. Levels with vegetation, mountains, or bright beaming buildings feel so refreshing for this franchise. Considering Shadowfall is also on new hardware, the game is breathtakingly gorgeous. The fresh environments not only feel like a welcome change, but they also represent your new investment in a PlayStation 4. Killzone Shadowfall is truly next-gen. All of these fantastic strengths have one undermining element though, and that's that the campaign in general is very weak. The story and refreshing look is here, but what you'll actually be doing is where everything falls apart. The campaign opens strong, with Kellen introduced to a large open map. The player has set objectives, but is given a number of opportunities to accomplish them. You can stealth, go guns blazing, disable security alarms, or avoid confrontation altogether. It's really fantastic, but once you're past that, that's about it. In fact, the whole midsection of the game is just flat out boring and mundane. You're back to narrow hallways with only one way to go. You'll often have little shootouts and have the most tedious objectives ever. You'll be grabbing an item, taking it to point B to access point A over and over. There will be times where you'll have an open area, but no one to shoot. You won't even be told where to go. It's just cumbersome. The ending of the game picks up with bigger battles and clearer objectives, but the majority is spent walking, searching, and wondering.
And you know what happens if you get caught. You're let out, on a wall in chains, the back over your head, paraded, or mocked.
Killzone Shadowfall's greatest asset is without a doubt its multiplayer. Shadowfall plays it a bit safe with the multiplayer, being unsurprisingly similar to the past multiplayer components. It features up to 24 players, with Classic Warzone being the headlining game mode. Classic Warzone still features fan-favorite game types like Search and Destroy and Capture the Beacon. You've got 3 player classes to play as with customizable loadouts. The Scout, Assault, and Support classes all have different abilities and field purposes when out in game, being a medic or calling in air support being the few examples of what each class is well versed in. There's also a highly customizable offline bot zone you can use as well. What I really love about Shadowfall's multiplayer is the unlocks and challenges. Instead of leveling up like most shooters, you're labeled as how many challenges you've completed, and there's over 1,500 of them. Along with that, there's tons of unlocks for your weapons and class abilities. More or less, it's a refined Killzone multiplayer with a lot to chase this time around, and I'm loving every minute of it. Killzone Shadowfall is a solid entry in the Killzone franchise. With that said, it's not an extraordinary entry, and it doesn't do much to convince Killzone newcomers or naysayers that this is a franchise with staying power. Ultimately, it demonstrates that Guerrilla Games had a lot of the right ideas going into Shadowfall, some that worked and some that didn't. A fresh new feel and intriguing story is here, but it's undermined by a campaign so dull that you might not manage through it. The multiplayer is easily excellent, but if you've had enough of past Killzone multiplayer, then don't expect anything vastly different. If you're a Killzone fan, this is a solid entry. If you're still not super into this series, then this won't be the title to convince you. Playing Killzone Shadowfall was fun, but when playing I always thought to myself, Guerrilla Games can do it. They can make another amazing Killzone title, something even better than Killzone 2. Shadowfall appears to be the remnants of that idea. I'm just wondering where the rest of it went.